Hey, YouTube, I'm Brick Smith, and that right there is DJ
Pink Bucket Nation.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Forever Sorting. I am Forever Sorting today. That's Kevin. See, last week Kevin said, why doesn't anybody ever wear the bucket anymore? And now he sees why.
Well, it was private. It was a private conversation.
Wait, was it?
Yeah. Wait,
You didn't say that
no,
live.
I did say it on the show.
Did you? Kevin, this hasn't been another week. That was 5 minutes ago. What the hell?
Why are you destroying our cinema magic?
Hey, man, somebody's got to do it. But mine are different when you look at the sides. Oh, Swoop Life. Holland Ball and Army. And
Brick Sister.
I got all the things. Kevin, welcome back.
Hey, good to be back.
It was like literally 5 minutes ago. He's like, you want to go again? I'm like, yeah, let me pee and get some soda. So
Well, now we're ahead of the game. And
yeah, we are.
I'm fresh from the last story, so I'm ready to dive into those last little bits that I wanted to talk about last time.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear those, Kevin.
But before we get too far into that, let me follow protocol.
Protocol being followed by Kevin Aloysius Hinkle.
So, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Forever Sorting. My name is Kevin. You can find me outside of this program online at kevinahinkle.com. You can find me on social media at Mr. Kevin Hinkle. If you'd like to follow my work just as a freelance artist, you're not really interested in all the story life stuff, you can follow me at Mr. Hinkle Draws, where I just share my artwork on social. Outside of those, I want to take a moment to call out AFL shirts. It's a Lego-inspired shirt offering that I designed with Clutch from Bricks on the Dollar.
Or Klitsch.
Or Klitsch, depending on the day.
There it is.
So head to bricksonthedollar.com. You can find links to our direct sale of shirts on Amazon for Lego-inspired t-shirts, or you can sign up for the monthly subscription service and get a shirt shipped right to your door every month.
Shirt ship. Say it fast. Shirt ship.
I know I said it right. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to. I said it right. So those are all shirts designed by me. I definitely appreciate you guys checking it out. And then also Bricks in the Middle, which is a comic series I make for you guys, for Lego fans, about Lego fans. You can find that on bricksinthemiddle.com or on social media at BITM Comics. And we're back. So last time, I thought I did good. Last time, well, we actually went through a lot of stuff last time. Flex tape is one of them.
Yeah, it is.
So we went through a lot of topics last time, but
we covered a plethora of topics.
We did.
You know what my favorite part was?
What?
The end. No, I'm kidding. No, the part where why I said why is it Enfield?
That was a good tangent, though.
It was good. I like that one.
It's a good tangent. So yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff, and I kind of very quickly ran through my travel schedule for the year.
Yeah.
And I wanted to dive a little bit more in that because I felt like I spent a lot of time talking about like the Lego side, the business side last time. Yeah. So there's a couple things. I did talk about how I was limited in what shows I had to go to. So I had to pick and choose which ones I thought made sense.
Yeah.
Something I said last time was that I thought at the time that it made a lot of sense to go to a first year show. And I did say that I don't necessarily agree with that today because I don't.
Yeah. Why not, Kevin?
So back then, I felt like it made a lot of sense for Lego to show approval after all the work and time and planning it takes to make a show happen. But it also wasn't necessarily taking into an account that from that point on, from 2014 on, shows were popping up like nobody's business. So like going to a first year show didn't necessarily make sense if you're going to have 3 to 4 new shows every year from then on. And I also could understand the thought process of, well, maybe there is also something to getting that year one under your belt with all the hiccups that happen, which they always do.
No. Have any idea what you're talking about? Ever heard of that? No, that doesn't happen ever.
Right. So getting that done with, and then maybe a couple years in after you've really settled, Lego coming in saying, "All right, let's play ball."
So you're saying Lego needs to give the new shows a chance to iron out the bugs.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I feel like if I had to make that call again today, I'd probably go with that. But back then, I don't regret trying it because back then that's what I thought made most sense. And
back then it made the most sense.
And I was given no direction. I was told you can only go to 6. The only like guidance was just don't forget that it's not all US, right? Like that's and I was really hoping that it'd be like, well, can I go to 6 in the US and then add the others on? But it was like, no, you get 6 trips for the year. And so that was why I, had to allocate, I only had 1 trip allocated to Canada for BrickFest because that was the only Lego show. Since then, more shows have established themselves, but back then it was kind of easy. Well, BrickFest's the only convention, so done.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's my Canada trip. And then Latin America was Expo Lug Brazil was the name of the show.
Oh.
So 2 other things that I did for the first time that year, again with Keith's push on this, was visit the Lego offices. Don't just visit the fans. And I'm like, okay. So
but the Lego fans is all that matters.
Well, so again, coming from that perspective, I'm like, I'm here for the fans. I get it. Totally get it. But also I can see where he's coming from, where it's like, we need to be integrated more with the company because then we can get more for the fans or whatever. And so I can understand. I didn't want to cut into the fan time though. So I added an extra day so that I could go visit the, so I did that in Canada. So I actually added an extra day before BrickFest, which is in July time, so that I could just visit the Lego Canada office. And
is it in July because the rest of the year it's below 0?
I actually don't know why it's in July. I might have asked, but I don't remember. So I went and visited Lego Canada. Their office is in Richmond Hill, which is like a suburb of Toronto.
Okay.
So it's kind of close. It was like a 30-40 minute drive. So I went and visited them. They had a very nice office, very small compared to the big infield metropolis. So it was a small office. I want to say they had a total of maybe 20 people or 30 people that worked there.
Wow.
And they had a product showroom. So that was cool. So they had like a nice, almost like museum-ish area where they had all the new products for the year built and on display.
That is cool.
And they would use that to show off to retail accounts. They would come in. So like an executive from Toys R Us would come in and they'd show them all the products, or Target or wherever. So I went, I got a mini tour of the office. Didn't take very long, but I got a quick tour. And then we spent a good chunk of the day just talking about fans. So I put together what I thought was a robust presentation to talk about the landscape of the community in Canada. So I showed off all the lugs. I showed examples of the shows the lugs were doing. I had photos. I had numbers. Numbers is all that really matters. People just want numbers.
No, corporate suits just want numbers.
Yeah.
People want pictures and stories and things of that.
That is a very valid adjustment.
Yeah.
So the suits, the marketing people.
Yeah.
They want numbers. And so I definitely gave that to them. And one of the things that has always been vitally important is that lugs and shows and people on YouTube, it doesn't matter. If you're a Lego fan, you are sharing and promoting the Lego brand to an audience. And you're not doing that because Lego asked you to do it.
Nope.
You're doing it because you want to do it.
That's why I do it.
And that is not to be dismissed.
But I've been dismissed.
Well, it's like I'm reading like a children's book, and it's like the little turtle's like, "But I was dismissed," said the turtle. There's it's not to be dismissed. And when you add all those numbers up, like if somebody were actually sitting there, like I did once upon a time, and said, "Hey, every time your lug does a show, like if your lug has a table at a train show, if your lug has a display set up in a library, if your lug has a show in an airport, can you somehow tell me how many people, rough estimate, saw that?" And so a lot of times the lugs would get a pretty decent number, not an accurate, like a super accurate one. But
are there any real accurate numbers?
No. But like you could say, like, could you tell us the ticket sales for that train museum that day?
Yeah.
And so they would get these estimates, and those numbers were always in the millions, always.
Wow.
So when you add it all up, you're like, oh, well, the North American community landscape is comprised of 15,000 lug members that are showcasing the Lego hobby and the Lego community and the Lego brand to 3.7 million public visitors a year at all of their shows combined.
And I'll show you Lego's response.
Let me see it. Hold on.
Who cares?
It depends on who you told it to.
Well, I'm not talking about you, but collectively, you know where I ended the last show with a bad taste in my mouth. So you know me.
I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people were quite astonished with that because they're like, wow, well, what could we do more to help you? Because these are clearly doing well for our brand.
Yeah.
That was the answer I'm always hoping for. But so that meeting at Lego Canada was all about that. Was like, how do we work together? Here's the information. Here's the numbers. And it actually did a lot to build my relationship with Lego Canada so that there was things we could explore and try with the community in Canada ever since then. That was a big deal. It worked out really well. I did the same thing in Sao Paulo. I added an extra day to visit the Lego office in Sao Paulo. It was in a skyscraper. It was like the 7th floor of a skyscraper.
Nice.
And so I went there. As I mentioned, I was a little terrified.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, your mind goes a flutter, right? And you're thinking about all these horror stories of like touristas in Latin America getting, I don't know.
Oh no, I'm terrified as well. I think Latin America looks good. It's nice. It's beautiful. I'm never going down there because I had a friend from Brazil that said, my brother just got kidnapped by the police. I was like, okay, check please.
Check please. Yeah. And I mean, so that was flooding through my mind.
Yeah.
And you know, Brazil was a country where I did have to get like a visa. Mm-hmm. So I had to go and get a US Brazil visa to get added into my passport. Wow. I had to have a letter from my employer stating why I would go to that country. So had that. But and hey, there was stuff that I saw that I was like, I should not go down that way. Yeah. But for the most part, I was never alone. I was always either with a Lego employee or I was with a group of fans.
Okay.
And so they took care of me, but I was still scared. I was nervous.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. The A falls and the T falls for down there, they don't bother if you scare me. I'd love to hang out with them, but it's literally everyone else that I'm scared.
Yeah, there was so one of the first nights I went with Lug Brazil, which is the main group there. They took me a number of them, like 15 of them, took me to a like a sushi karaoke bar.
Oh wow!
And I was like, okay, what else am I gonna do? Let's do it.
All right.
So we went, and of course I was full uniform. I was representing the brand, and I was there. And when we left, we went outside, and one of the fans was like, "I'll drive you back to your hotel." I'm like, "Great." And so I go out there, and he wasn't alone. He was there with his daughter and his wife.
Yeah.
And they're all Lego fans. And so we go out there, and there's this random shady guy just like pacing back and forth on the street.
Jeez.
And the cars were all parked on the road, right? Like parallel parking style.
Right.
And this guy like comes over, he like slinks over, and the fan gives him some money. And then we get in the car.
Wait,
and
what?
we start driving away. And I go, hey, why did you give that guy money?
What was that about?
And he's like, oh, because I had to. And I was like, I mean, everything was like so normal that I was seen as so bizarre, like asking.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, but what, like, was he like valet? Like, cause you just got in the car. Like, he didn't do anything.
Right.
And he's like, no, it's just some guy that is outside and he's decided to pick this street for the day. And he'll come up to you when he sees you and he'll say, give me money. And if you don't give him money, I asked him, what happens if you don't give him money? He's like, he will mess my car up. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know. He'll break my mirror off with a baseball bat, or he'll key the side of it.
They'll just tear it up to be tearing it up.
And I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah. No, if you see somebody out there and they come up to you, you're paying them to not damage your car is why you're paying.
Oh, well, what the hell?
But I mean, he was so like he's there with his daughter. His daughter was like, I don't know, 6. His wife, very nonchalant. They never acted like they were scared. But it was just so normal. And I'm like, wow, this is so bizarre. So that happened. But I went and visited the Lego office there, also very small. But man, did they have a stunning view from where they were. And as I mentioned last time, Sao Paulo is the largest city I've ever been to. It is like in New York City times 5. Wow. It is insane. And I remember they were on like this 11th floor of a skyscraper of the Lego office. I went up there. They had these gorgeous balconies where they could like have meetings. It's like such a hard life. And so I went out there and like the skyline went on forever. Like it was like deep in the heart of a mega city with skyscrapers and just insane number. And it just went on in every direction. It had no end.
Wow. And
I took multiple photos on my Flickr if you're interested.
What's Flickr?
What's Flickr indeed. But I just like this city never ends in like every direction. So it was insane. I looked up and the sky was filled with helicopters. And so I remember asking them, like, what's with all the helicopters? They go, oh, the traffic is so bad here. And the traffic was very bad there. The traffic is so bad here that the rich people just fly helicopters around downtown. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, well, we don't have like the airspace isn't controlled like it is in the United States. So they just grab a helicopter and fly around. I was like, what? Jeez. So all the skyscrapers, like every skyscraper had a helipad on the top because people just flew their helicopters around.
What did you do if there's already a helicopter up there?
You just try to avoid them. I was just like, I was blown away. That was good. I was there. We did a what we call a market run. So the person, Lego Brazil, kind of picked a person that was like, Kevin, this is your person to talk to on behalf of our company.
Yeah.
Just like Canada, Lego Canada was like, Kevin, this is your person that's now going to talk to you. So I was partnered with a very nice guy by the name of Lucas, and if you had to imagine in your head what a Brazilian male looks like, he's probably what you imagine. So he was like very very attractive man. He had like the long flowing black hair. His shirt was like unbuttoned to like there. And he had like the chest hair poking out.
Nice. Taco meat.
He had like the perfectly full but like trim beard.
Oh. And
heavy accent. And I'm like, this is exactly how I would imagine this to be. And he's like, he's like, Kevin, my friend, come, I show you city. And he like gave me like this giant hug. And I'm like, okay. So he was my Lego liaison to Brazil. So he took me around. We went and visited my first time ever visiting what Lego used to call monobrand stores. A monobrand store was
what was the definition?
It's not a Lego store like you and I know a Lego store. It is
Does Australia have one?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It has since been renamed. I'm trying to remember what it's called now. It's not monobrand. It's called like I can't remember, but it's as the name implies, it's a store that sells a single brand.
Yeah.
So it's a store that looks like a Lego store. It smells like a Lego store.
Right.
It you shop it like a Lego store. Everything about it screams Lego store. It's yellow.
Yeah.
It's got all the products on the shelves.
It's even got a picker brick wall, right?
It has a picker brick wall.
Yeah.
I made the comment that the staff were wearing the uniforms that I wore when I first started working for Lego Retail in 2005.
Okay.
They had the yellow polos with the Lego logo embroidered on it. And I was like, are those my uniform from 2005? But everything about it was a Lego store, but they don't take the P program. And they weren't Lego owned. Lego didn't own it. So it was owned by basically a mom and pop. It was a mom and pop store that was under licensing agreement from Lego Brazil to have a store that only sold Lego in the country. And Lego does that. They still do it today.
Yeah.
They do that in places where they don't see a business benefit of having Lego brand retail there.
Really, like Australia? Because that seems weird. Australia seems like a place to. I mean, Brisbane or the Gold Coast or
I
don't know.
I don't. A lot of people you talk to that live in these countries that have these stores will tell you the same thing. Like, really, Lego doesn't think this country is worth having an actual, but the company has its reasons. When they have a Lego store, an official Lego store, that means in that country you need to start a new company that's Lego brand retail. That is operated differently than a marketing company. There's a bunch of tax reasons. I don't know. But so like in Canada, all the Lego stores are run by Lego brand retail Canada, which is different than Lego Canada Incorporated. And in the US, you have Lego Systems Incorporated, which is the Lego company in the United States. And then you have Lego brand retail Incorporated, which is the retail company in the US. So they have deemed for whatever reasons that they're like, it's not worth the time and the paperwork and the money and all the red tape to form a company and have Lego stores here. But we still want Lego stores there. We'll just have someone else do it for us.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was my first time to visit those stores. I think I went to two of them that were in Brazil. They were both in very, very high-end malls. Like I was like, are there chandeliers in this mall? Like it was very high end, but it was not Lego owned, so that was very interesting to me. And Lucas was really, really interested in trying to work with the fans. He kind of had the same issue that I would have often with Lego marketing people, no matter what country they're from. If they do like fans. And they're like, ooh, I like that we have these consumers that are very high affinity and very invested and very passionate. Do you think they could do all of our work for us for free? Like that was a very common thing that happened.
Jeez.
And so you would have to like reel them back, be like, put on the brakes there, buddy. And try to make sure that they remember that this is a mutually beneficial relationship.
That seems to be lost on most of the Lego.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And I would say that was my primary job internally.
Yeah.
Like externally, I was the Lego guy. I am there to answer your questions. I'm there to hear your voice. I am there to take your concerns into the company. But when I'm in the company, I'm there to educate them on what's a fan, why should we care, why should we support them, and why we should not abuse them. Like that was like my mission. And so a lot of marketing people would get very like, they would get dazzled. They'd be like, oh, wow, well, they could do all of our stuff for us for free. Like, well, but no.
But here's the thing. They would, but.
They would.
But you get different levels. It'd be a thing.
To what cost?
Exactly.
To what cost? So, but we had a decent relationship, but I did have to, not just him, but Lego Canada, I had to reel them back a little bit. And there's always the danger to that, because if community members would get wind of some of those things after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it would be not like sometimes the community at large would not agree with me as the community manager.
Of course not.
They would say, well, Kevin, why did you prevent us from doing that? That would have been a wonderful opportunity. And I'd be like, well, because you're like the children to me. I'm like your parent. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. I feel like maybe you would have liked it, but maybe you would have felt really bad after and felt like you got used. I think you're being starstruck. You're being like, oh, Lego wants to work with us. We should do everything to do that. But should you though? I don't know. So it happened. Sometimes it would happen where somehow, word would get out that like, oh, we could have had this, but Kevin said no to them.
Kevin said no.
And I'm like, I did it for your own good. Now shut up. So I was always looking out for the better interest of the community. But I have now rambled on for like 25 minutes about company stuff again.
Hey, no, hey, Kevin, we have time. It's fine.
I know, but I wanted to talk about the shows today.
Well, you can show away.
I can deviate and go back to the question. So a couple of the shows, I think, looking at the time, the first new show I went to that year was Philly Brickfest.
Okay.
So I've talked a little bit about this when we had our special episode with Chad on.
Yeah.
But it's still true that Philly Brickfest to this day remains the show I was most impressed with year one.
There you go.
So Chad had reached out to me. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who he was. But he reached out to me. He's like, hey, you're Lego. I'm a Lego fan. I want to do a show. I got your contact information because it's not hard to find.
Right.
And I'd like to talk to you. So we arranged a phone call, which was very common practice for me. I would say I did have a phone call every, like once a quarter with somebody who says, Kevin, I'm going to do a show in this place. And it would never happen. I
have it on good authority that those conversations still happen.
They still happen.
You had one this year, didn't you?
I had one this year. So I'd say about once a quarter, I'd have that call.
Yeah.
With someone who's determined to do a new Lego convention somewhere.
Yeah.
And usually there was like a pretty much run of the mill, like, here's the things I'm going to ask you. You're going to not know half of them. And we're going to work from there. So I had that same call with Chad. I said, let's have a phone call. And Chad like legitimately blew me away. Like I went through the list and he had answers to everything.
And he checked all the boxes on you?
He did. And I told him, I'm like, this is a little unusual for me. And I was like, well, what are your dates? He had the dates ready. Like, okay. Well, where's your venue? Oh, the venue's here. Here's the address. All right. Have you spoken to the local lug? He's like, I've spoken to both lugs and there's invites and they already have space on the show. Like, okay. Like that's how the conversation went. And I was like, okay, well then I'll come check it out. So I added that to the list. I went out, I drove to Philly because it wasn't far. I did take my wife and my son with me. Right. So 2014, this is my son, my younger son is 1. Wow. I think so. He was born in 2013. 1. And my older son, even worse math. Let me do it real quick.
I'm not helping.
So this was 2014. 2014, he would have been 13.
Nice.
So I took my wife and both my kids with me, and I said, hey, you guys can come along with me because I'm driving, right? I'm driving. Right. You can come with me and you guys can do whatever you want to do. So they actually spent a lot of time at that like family fun center that's like next to the Philly Expo Center.
Yeah, I don't have never even noticed it. Sorry.
Right. Well, the one.
No. Okay. I was confused. Never mind.
Yeah, the one we go bowling in.
Why didn't you just say Arnold's? Because I knew that.
I never remember the name of it.
That's the yeah.
Yeah. So Arnold's. They almost spent the whole time there, but because I've said this before, my wife's not a big Lego fan.
Yeah.
And of course my kids are, but there's also a 1-year-old doesn't really care. And so they did come and tour the show at some point.
Yeah.
They did the round and then they left. But so they all drove with me. I was there for the whole show from opening to tear down. One thing I thought was very different for this show.
Glitch?
So Philly Brick Fest was the first show ever to actually advertise that I was going to be there.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't really know how to process that. Obviously I'd spent years going to shows, and I would go to the show, and it's not a secret, right? I'm there.
Sure.
Lego's there. I'm going to probably do a Q&A. I'm probably going to maybe unveil something.
Right.
But this was like the first show that like legit on the website was like, and Lego's very own Kevin Hinkle will be here.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. I know that my colleagues in the wider organization were very uncomfortable with that. They were very uncomfortable with it. They're like, we don't know how we feel about that. That seems like he's using our employees to advertise his show.
Huh.
And I was like, well, whatever. I'm going to let you guys figure it out. But so that was the first time. He asked me if I could do a Q&A, and I don't mind because I've done Q&As forever.
Yeah.
But I actually did, I think I did 3 Q&As. So, if you've been to Brickfest, they have like a formula for like their programming.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to offer like, whatever things on stage multiple times so that multiple people can experience them.
Correct.
And that's, I get it. I get where that's coming from like a event management, public facing component.
Yeah.
From an AFL side, from a convention for Lego fans, very unusual. So he asked me, I did 3. And again, I know that's a relic, but if you go to my Flickr, I'll have photos from that first Philly Brick Fest. And there's a sign that has like a dry erase times, like of all the programming for the day. And it's like Lego Q&A with Kevin Hinkle at this time, and then Brick Show, and then this, and then this, and then Kevin Hinkle Q&A this time, and then this, and this. And again, I was like, wow, okay, like I'm almost like a performer. Like, and again, I don't know how I felt about it. I was like, it was very different than how I'd gone to every other show. And so I wasn't necessarily bothered by it, but I also wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable with it. I was like, this is different. So I went on stage 3 times. Did I like doing a Lego Q&A 3 times? No, I did not. I did the first one, and it was like every other Q&A. I was like, all right, whatever. It's like, it's old hat. Yeah. And then the second time I was like, this is kind of lame. I already did this. The third one, I was like miserable. I was like, why am I doing this again? Now, something that is very important to note is that first Philly Brick Fest had over 20,000 public visitors. Yeah. It was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Up to that point, the largest con that we had on record was Brick Fair Virginia and Brick World Chicago. Yeah. Brick Fair Virginia, I think, had 15,000 maybe after a decade. Yeah. Right? After being there for 10 years. And then this is year 1. Hello, flag, 20 grand. It's like, what? Like, I was so stunned. Yeah. And it really took me all year. I mean, really, it took me all year to understand the halo effect the Lego movie had on everything. Because the Lego movie, bar none, there is no debate about it. The Lego movie is what got those people there. Yeah. The brand was hot. Everything was marketing. Everyone was talking Lego because Lego was on everything. And so people were Googling Lego shows, Lego events. And I say this, no knock at their marketing efforts for Philly Brick Fest. But that show, as well as Brick Universe Raleigh, first year show, out of nowhere, out of the starting gate. Yeah. Brick Slopes in Salt Lake City, all 3 shows had over 20,000 people show up. Dang. So you're not about to tell me that like random people in Salt Lake City, random guy up here in Philadelphia, random 14-year-old down in Raleigh, just all magically had the right formula to get 20,000 people to the day. It's the halo effect of the Lego movie. There you go. But so he had 20,000 people. I had never seen anything like that. The closest I had seen was Virginia. And so I came out there. I remember walking over from the parking lot. And I'm like, is that the line? I was like, what is this? I mean, the line just stretched out. It like wrapped around the building like twice over. Yeah. And I went inside, and it was jam packed. It was like sardines in there.
Wow.
But the show was solid. It was a solid show. Chad took a very different approach to his show than I had seen at any of the other shows. It was very clearly targeted towards the public first, and then the AFL-ness is sprinkled on top, versus the other shows which are AFL first, and we got to do the public thing, like backwards, right?
Yeah.
Or frontwards, depending on how you look at it.
There you go.
That was, again, very different for me.
Yeah.
But I did that. It was interesting. That was also, just so happens, the first year that I was finally able to convince someone from the Lego legal department to come to a fan show. And I didn't really have like any evil motives to that. I just hey, I was always promoting other Lego people to come to the shows. I was like, you guys need to get out of this office and see what the fans are doing with our products.
Yeah.
And I've been working with legal forever for mostly, surprise, legal reasons.
No.
They often had problems with things fans were doing. But I said, well, why don't you actually get out to a show one day and see what they're doing? Yeah. And so that was the first year I was able to convince, because there was a show within driving distance, to get someone from Lego Legal to visit. So I won't mention his name. He's still there.
Okay.
But he was a veteran. He had been at Lego for, I think, over 15 years. And so he came out. He was like mouth open in awe. and I came over to him. I was like, so what do you think of these fan shows? Kind of like a proud father. Yeah. And he was like, he leans over me. He goes, Kevin, I don't think 90% of the company understands what happens at these fan shows. And I'm like, no, of course they don't. You guys think it's a bunch of comic book man from The Simpsons in someone's basement, and they're all just going like, worst Chima ever. Like, that's what you think. When in reality, these are passionate people from all walks of life, all ages, all
everything,
religious backgrounds, from different ethnicities, and they are promoting our brand to a public audience for free. Like, this is just as much on par with Lego shows than Lego shows. Yeah. And he was like, I get it finally. And I'm like, and this, my friend, is the reason why I'm trying to get you guys out of your desk and coming to, because I could sit here and show you 1,001 pictures, and I can tell you as many stories as I want to tell you. I can show you videos on YouTube, but until you get out here, it's not going to resonate with you.
No, I don't imagine.
And that was the case, like, forever. Like, from then on, anytime I actually was able to get people to the shows, their perception from then on was always changed. Always.
Oh, of course.
But it was pulling teeth to get people to go to shows. They had every excuse under the sun. It was like, honestly, it was like working with kids. They'd be like, hey, I'd like you to come to a Lego show. And they'd be like, oh, well, Kevin, we're really busy. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. Here's the schedule for the next 18 months. But I don't know. I mean, do you have anything that's like drivable? I'm like, actually, as a matter of fact, I do. Like, you can drive to Philly Brick Fest, which is 5 hours away, or Brick Fair New England, which is 3 hours away, or Brick Fair Toronto, which is 8 hours away, or Brick Fair Virginia if you're feeling exciting and want to drive the East Coast for like 9 hours.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe we'll put it in our calendar. The thing that really grinded my gears.
Oh, grinded your gears.
Here's what really grinded my gears. I was actually on top of my game, folks. Like, I always had the calendar for the Lego shows the year in advance every year.
Nice.
I was on it. I was like, as soon as you guys know your dates, give it to me. I will make a calendar. I will make an overview. I will put all the information in it, because I know how Lego people work. And they're like, well, you need to tell us ahead of time. And ahead of time is never enough. Like, they'll be like, well, you should, if I tell them 6 months in advance, they'll say I should have told them 8 months in advance. If I tell them 8 months in advance, they said I should have told them a year in advance. But what really grinded my gears was when I would give them the schedule a year in advance for the whole year. And I'd say, let me know. I'm going to give you reminders. And I would check in with them, like, after a couple months, go, hey, we're at the 8-month mark. Any change? Maybe you could come visit one of these shows with me. We'll get back to us. And then you get to like the 6-month mark, do it again. What really, oh man, I can't even begin to tell you, is when we get to like, I don't know, maybe a month out, which in a lot of ways is kind of like that do or die time for like proper travel arrangements. What would just kill me is they'd be like, oh, oh man, Kevin, that would have worked out great, but you didn't give us enough time. You should have told us ahead of time. Like I would sit there at my desk reading this on an email. It's always on an email. And I would like lean back and be like, you had this schedule for a year.
Yeah.
And I've reminded you 8 months in. I reminded you 6 months in. So what you're telling me now as a colleague is you basically ignored everything I've been telling you up until now. And now you're kind of vaguely interested, but you don't really want to go. So you need an excuse. So you're going to say, I didn't give you enough notice.
Ugh.
Like, and you know what? I mentioned this because this happened all the time. All the time. Like I used to joke. I would joke about this with Paul, who took over after me. I would say, Paul, get ready for the people that tell you didn't give them enough notice after you give them a year in advance. And he's like, but that's a year in advance, Kevin. I'm like, yes, young Padawan, you shall learn the ways. Like it's amazing. But yeah, people would be like, you didn't give us enough time, Kevin, all the time. I'm like, you're killing me. I can't give you more than a year notice. because that's when right? When the show happens, when the show's done, like the best, most longest running shows like Brickworld and Brick Fair, they'll know their dates for next year when the show wraps. Like during closing ceremonies, they will announce dates for next year. So I literally cannot give you more than a year's notice. Like it is as much as I can give you. But I digress.
Did you? I didn't notice.
Overall, Philly was really incredible. I was very impressed with it. That was also the year that Stephen Pakbaz went. He was the fan designer for the Lego Ideas Curiosity rover. So I got to meet him in real life. That was cool.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cool stuff. Pin lug, which is kind of like the old school lug of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And they're also like pretty world-class builders when it comes to trains and like towns.
They are known, if you guys don't know, they have the pin lug standard on how they mill plate or plate their tracks, ballast their tracks. That's it.
When your club gets to get credited for a standard.
Yeah.
You made it. So Pinlug was there, and they had told me that they had only been limited over the last several years at Brickworld and Brick Fair and all these other shows because of how far a distance they had to travel. Because they do have a trailer, like the club has a trailer.
Correct.
But the club is so robust, and there's so many people that they can never even take it all because it's just whatever room you have in the trailer.
Right.
So they had been telling me for months, like, Kevin, you don't know, Philly, we're bringing the heat. We are bringing the full 100% club layout, and they didn't lie. I was there that first year, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it was one of the most stunning displays I'd ever seen.
Wow, that's a lot.
I mean, it was. I was stunned, like the level of detail, and they told me the club literally didn't have enough tables, because Pinluck builds their own tables, so because they can get the right standard or whatever. So they brought every table the club owned, and they put it all out.
Yeah.
And it was like it had a train yard, it had a dock, it had like a forest, it had a town. All of that from one. I was like, whoa. So that was there. Brickfest was also the first year I had seen like a mascot, like an official mascot walking around. But at that time it was Benny. So it was Benny from the Lego movie. So it wasn't officially like a Brickfest mascot. The walking Benny was one of the things that my colleague from legal was like on the pad. And like I said, he wasn't there for that. That's not why he went. But when you're a lawyer for a company, you have no choice but to see things when you're walking around. And so he made a list of things. And a lot of those things actually ended up birthing, that's a fun word, birthing the identity that Brickfest has today.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lego legal pushing back saying, well, you can't have a Benny walking around. That's a licensed character from the Lego group and Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And then BrickBot was born.
Yeah.
And so now you have BrickBot because BrickBot was born out of necessity.
Yeah.
They used to have a lot of the old advertisements that had, like, if you remember, a Lego Jester, like a minifig with a Jester hat.
Yeah.
And that's gone because it's a minifigure, and you can't use a minifigure to advertise a non-Lego group thing.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you have BrickBot on everything, and you have its new identity. And so that was interesting. One of the things, though, because there's always a but.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had expressed to Chad, which still lingers today.
Oh.
I said when we had our first phone call before the show even happened, I said, Chad, it sounds great. I am looking forward to it. It's in my calendar. I'm going to be there. It really sounds like you've got you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's.
Mm-hmm.
However, are you absolutely certain about the name? And he was like, well, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's a fest, like it's a festival. So Brickfest. I'm like, okay, you need to understand something vitally important. Brickfest is the name of a, albeit defunct, original Lego fan convention in the world. Brickfest started everything. And he was a little unaware. He was like, oh, I didn't realize there was so much history. I was like, there is. And I tell you this because I know this community. They are a fickle bunch, and they are loyal to the end. Mm. And there's going to be a collective of people, and they're going to chastise you from the get-go. Yeah. If you use a name that's already been established. And I don't remember if we've talked about Brickfest in the program, but the super quick Brickfest was the first show. It happened in the George Mason University in Virginia. It was started by Christina Hitchcock and Steve Borelli. It was beloved by the community. This is what started everything. They eventually split, and you had Brickfest PDX and Brickfest in Virginia. Brickfest as a whole eventually just fizzled out. They got overworked. They were tired. They just stopped. But Brickfest was very much a company. It was a copyrighted name. It was a business entity. It had multiple shows. And now it doesn't exist anymore. And there's a lot of people, notable people. Like, that's the key here. Like some of, like, not to get too religious, but like the apostles of the community. Uh-huh. Like, I think that's a great analogy. Like the original 12 were at that first Brickfest, and then left. And then now you have Brickworld and BrickCon and BrickFair and all these shows that have sprung up since then. Mm-hmm. They have spread the word, and they've come out. Todd Webb, who owns and operates BrickFair, started BrickFair because he went to Brickfest as a fan. Yes. And when Brickfest stopped, he said, I can't allow it. I'll put BrickFair where Brickfest used to be. But he did say he wanted to keep Brickfest going. They just wouldn't give him the name or the company. They said, well, you can go in the area, but you can't have the name. But he was willing to take it over. Yeah. In Portland, PDX, same thing happened there. They wanted it to keep going, and it wouldn't. So that's when you have BrickCon in Seattle started up after that. And then you have Bricks Cascade in Portland proper. And it's just, again, they wanted to take it over, but they're like, no, it's our name. So they had to make their own shows. Beloved is an understatement. Yeah. And so I said, if I could give you any advice, my friend, change that name now before it's too late. And he listened to me, and he's like, all right, I appreciate, you sharing that with me, but I think we're a little too far in at this point. Because he'd already done everything. They had already started working on the copyrights and the trademarks and the marketing and the advertisement and the website. I mean, it was already all well in motion before we talked, which is to his credit. He was on his game. So he did the show, and immediately the rumors started. They're like, do you hear that guy stole the original name? And I was like, here it is. And what I was not prepared for at all was how many people in the community blamed me for him having a show named Brickfest. I was not prepared for that. But I got so many emails and phone calls because people had said, well, Kevin, you know that there was a Brickfest already. Like I'm aware. Well, when you talked to Chad, did you not tell him that there was already a Brickfest? Yes. And every person I had to explain, I'm like, do you member of the Lego fan community not understand that I can't control this person? And like, I can't control what he wants to do with his business or his entity. I understand where you're coming from. And as a community manager, as someone who knows the community, I have shared these concerns with him.
Right.
But at the end of the day, i.e. Lego, has no horse in this race. Yeah. He can name his event whatever he wants to name it.
That's true.
But like everybody was mad at me. And I was like, why are you all mad at me? I was like, what's going on? I got so many, and these are all people that are like long running members of the community.
Yeah.
Like these are people that have been around. And so there was a lot of rumors. There was a lot of scuttlebutt. There was a lot of gossiping. There was a lot of talking about it just because of the name. And, you know, I was like, man, oh man. And I remember I did talk to Chad, and I was like, Chad, I remember I asked him a couple months later before we get ready for the show. I'm like, have you had anybody reach out to you about the name? He's like, not that many. I'm like, they're all calling me. They're all calling me. Because I told him, I said, be prepared to get like an onslaught of things about it. And I was right. I was just wrong at who they were going to be directed at. So they all came to me. But the show happened. The show was great. Obviously, the name stuck. I don't want to dive too far into the community drama. But from what I know, the original owners of Brickfest were not happy that there was a new show with that name. They did want to do something about it, but they've even released a statement on the original Brickfest site, which may at this point finally might be gone.
Yeah.
I think it was up for years and years. Yeah, it's finally gone. But you used to go to brickfest.com, and it was the original site. And they had a statement on their site about how they are not to be affiliated with the new Brickfest. And that in the statement, the public statement, it said that, you know, we have I think that's the fire alarm going off in my local town, as we've discussed many times. But it said in the statement that we are not happy with it. We have consulted a lawyer, but we can't afford the legal fees to fight it. So we're just going to have to deal with it. And so they basically, you know, released their rights to it because they didn't enforce it. But it was trademarked. The original Brickfest name was 100% trademark, but they had not ever enforced it. They had never protected it. And that's what happens as a company. If you don't enforce or protect your copyrights, you lose them.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But so there was an interesting, like I said, that first year was really successful, very interesting for a lot of reasons. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Another thing that I was very much caught off guard with was when the show was done and we kind of had like a follow-up call, like, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks after, just to see how things were going, where his mind was, how he thought. He was like, yeah, we're excited. And you're invited to our next show. It's in a couple months. And I was like, what? Again, this is so like out of the norm.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean isn't it next year? He's like, no, it was so successful. We're going to do another one. I don't remember when, maybe September. Like one, because it was in the springtime. He's like, we're going to do another one in the fall time. I'm like, really? You're going to do?
The second one was August.
It might have been August. Yeah.
I want to say that. I don't know for sure.
But I was so confused. I was like, but none of the other shows do 2 in a year. I mean, I guess if you think you can support it, and that was my concerns to him. I go, if you think you can support it, okay. But that seems a little ambitious. But he was pretty gung-ho about it. I told him, I said, you know, I'm already being limited on my travel. If I go to 2 of your shows in a year, that means I can't go to another one. I don't think people will be happy if I go to your show twice. So he understood that. Yeah. But so that was very interesting. The other show was Brick Slope in Salt Lake City, Utah. That was a lot more like what I would expect a first year show to be.
Okay.
So a lot of hiccups. Not bad by any means. It's just like it's a first year. You're like, oops, we forgot this.
Yeah.
Oops, we forgot that.
Are you sure you're safe right now? I mean, that sounds like a tornado alarm. Or is that you said fire?
Yeah, you've heard that before.
Well, we had tornado when I lived in Illinois. We had tornado alarms.
Yeah, no, that's I know I've been in live streams where it's happened before, but down the road is our we have a fire station. I live like right next to it. And this is a very small town.
Yeah.
And so the fire station has volunteer firefighters, and when you have an emergency, they blow the alarm outside the fire to get the people from the town to wake up.
Wow.
And the people will drive and walk from their homes over to the fire department and get suited up, and that goes off every single day. Every day, usually twice, if not 3 times a day. It has every day that we've lived here for the last 7 years. We have gotten so like desensitized to it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, but I do like messing with people that have never been here, and they're like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we got to get under our tables. It's like, it literally means nothing. What's funny is, if you remember, Julian, when I went and mailed you that package and that car ran into the building behind me.
Yeah.
That's a funny story, folks.
Yeah. That is the thumbnail for the package, for the whole video.
Like I literally walked down to my post office, put it in the mail, was leaving, and a car ran full steam ahead whoosh, right into the building next to me. I was like, huh. Well, that's odd.
It just happened.
What just happened? And I say it was like watching cockroaches emerge from houses. It was amazing. Like I was the only human like outside. And so I'm like looking at this car steaming that just ran, and the guy came out, he was bloody, face was bloody. He was totally drunk. And he just walked right by me and just like left. It's like, what? And then like, as I'm sitting there, like just people start just like emerging from like homes and stuff, like cockroaches. Like, it's amazing. But I'm sitting there looking at this car, smoking, just staring at it. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, there it is. There's the alarm. And the fire station was like 2 buildings down from it.
Wow.
And then, people showed up, got in the fire truck. Fire truck came like 2 houses down, and it was like at that car. But here's what's funnier for you guys listening. I took a selfie of me next to the car, like on fire behind me. It wasn't on fire, but it was but like all the firefighters were around it, and it was like smashed. Like the wheel was totally buckled out of the car.
Yeah.
And I like took a selfie of me in front of it, and I sent it to Julie, and I'm like, just another day at the post office. And he like did not at all register there was a car smashed into the building behind me.
I was like, oh great, Kevin sent me a selfie of himself at the post office. Great. Then I saw the car, and I was like, wait, what?
It was actually really funny. You're like, okay, thanks. Like, Julian, there's a car behind me smashed against the wall. So tangent.
Yeah, it is.
But so Brick Slopes was very much what I expected from our first year show. Very good, but like a lot of hiccups. And that not any detrimental hiccups. Just like, all right, they forgot that thing for that game. And whoops, they forgot like they needed to do the schedule here. Like just stuff that happens when you haven't done it before.
Yeah.
But it was in Salt Lake City. The thing that was fascinating for me about that show is at this point in my career, it's kind of just like robotic for me to go, all right, going to a show. Travel Thursday, I'm there Friday, Saturday, I leave Sunday. All right, next travel. Like I didn't even check, like I would check dates to know when the show was. Mm-hmm. But I would just always do the same thing. I'll travel in on a Thursday. I'll get there Thursday. I'll be there all day Friday. I'll be there all day Saturday. I'll leave on a Sunday. So I could be there for like a private day and a public day and leave. Mm-hmm. And so I did the same thing for Brick Slopes, not thinking it would be any different. And it was different. So Brick Slopes is in Salt Lake City, Utah. Very much Mormon country. Uh-huh. Very, very, very much Mormon country. And they do not do stuff on Sunday.
Oh.
Just don't do it. So I had booked my travel like I normally booked it. And I get there and I land on Thursday and they're like full swing. Like the show is in full swing. I'm like, why isn't this like setup day?
Yeah, right.
And they're like, Kevin, the show's already going. Like we only got like another 2 days and we're done. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, yeah, we set it up Wednesday, and then the show's on Thursday for the fans, and then the public time is Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, what about Sunday? Like, well, we don't do anything on Sunday. I was like, well, what do you mean you don't do anything on Sunday?
Everybody does something on Sunday.
And so then the owners, there's 3 guys that were like co-owning it. They like pulled me aside, like, Kevin, like it's like Mormon country here. And I was like, well, I mean, I kind of know, but no.
What does that really mean?
What does that mean? He's like, well, we don't do anything on Sunday. So like most of the businesses here are closed, and like we spend time with family and we go to church. I'm like, oh, so like you're not going to be here? I'm like, no, we end Saturday. Like after we're done Saturday, we have closing ceremonies. There is no Sunday. And I'm like, but I'm going to be here tomorrow, or I'm going to be here on Sunday. And I mean, of course, could I have changed my flight? Yeah, I guess so. But I just don't want to. I didn't want to deal with it. But I was there. The show was great. They did end it. I wasn't there on Sunday. And they told me, they said if they had, they said that in that area in Salt Lake, that other shows, like shows that travel around, had come there and still done it on a Sunday. And it was so detrimental to their business that they're like, why on earth did we do this on a Sunday here?
Wow.
And interestingly enough, that Sunday the mall was open. So I was like, well, I guess I could go to the mall because I had to kill like 5 hours to my flight. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll go to the mall. And of course, there's a Lego store in the mall.
Oh, of course.
So I'm like, let me go to the mall. That mall was like a ghost town. I was like, there's like no one in this mall. There are more employees in this mall than there are customers in this mall. And I went over to the Lego store, and no one was in there. And I was like, wow. And so I was talking to the store manager, and she goes, yeah, the mall is a national chain, so it must be open all week. But the locale very much is we don't do anything on Sunday. It's the Lord's Day.
Wow.
And so we don't have a choice. We have to be open because the mall says we have to be open, but we literally make almost no money on Sunday. So I'm like, well, what do you do? Like, well, we just schedule as bare bones as we can, like have 2 or 3 people here, and we just spend the whole day stocking and cleaning. I was like, wow. So I had nothing to do. I wandered the mall. There wasn't anything terribly exciting. When you see one mall, you've seen them all.
Right.
I think I got like an Orange Julius, I think. Because I was like, hey, look, it's an Orange Julius. And then I went back to the store and I said, well, I'm a Lego employee, so if you want me, I can help you clean and stock. So I did. I was a corporate employee in the Lego store in Salt Lake City on a Sunday, helping them stock their shelves and just talking about fans.
Wow.
Because the staff that were there, they were enamored. They were like, tell us about fans. I was like, all right. So I was talking about the community. I was talking about ULUG, which is the lug in Utah.
Yeah.
They also have the Great Basin Lego Train Club.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one other one, but I mean, they're really good groups. All the groups are good groups. They're active. They do stuff. So that was like the big takeaway from Brick Slopes is I was like, okay, note to self, there is no Sunday here. Got it. I probably should have checked, but I was just so used to not having to check because all the shows had the same schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, no Sunday. Show was good.
Just for the record, all the shows have the same record.
Yes. And yeah, Brick Slopes had 20,000 people show up. Wow. So they had lines out again, like Philly. They had lines everywhere. But it was good. It was a good show. And the other one was New Jersey, right? Yeah, Brick Fair, New Jersey. That was the other first year show. What I loved about that one was it was Halloween. So it was on Halloween. So they actually Todd and Brick Fair leaned into Halloween saying, let's have a Halloween costume contest.
Nice.
And they actually did trick-or-treating at the show. So that was really cool. So you could wear costumes. And if you were, I think it didn't matter if you were a kid or an adult, but you could take your Halloween basket to all of the lug tables and all the vendor tables and get candy.
Nice.
I think some of them gave out Lego because that's what you do. But a lot of people gave out candy. I was like, this is so cool. I was really I dug it. I was like, I like this Halloween show. This is cool.
Yeah.
And it was also very successful. It wasn't a 20,000, but it was successful. Unfortunately, that was the only successful Brick Fair, New Jersey. That was like that year of the Lego Movie, man. That halo effect.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, every year. Yeah, right. Every year, it got down. It went down and down and down, and then I mean, last year it was even canceled all together.
Right.
It's back on the schedule this year. We'll see how it goes. But that was the other show I went to. That was first year. It was great. I got to meet Garden Slug, which I think has one of the coolest names for a lug.
Yeah.
Garden Slug, the Garden State. So I got to meet them there. And yeah, the other shows, Brickworld Chicago was old hat. You know, it's the same. It's great, but it's the same show. Got to see everybody again, talk to everybody. And then I also went to Lego Fan Weekend in Denmark. That is a whole story on its own. We're gonna take over from that next time. We're gonna talk about Lego Fan Weekend Skaerbeek in Skaerbeek, Denmark.
I've heard of Skaerbeek.
Oh, you have,
and not from you.
If you're a Lego fan, you've heard of it.
There you go.
So I'm gonna make a note to myself, everybody, so I don't forget.
Yeah.
And that's all I got, Julian.
Okay. Well, that's Kevin over there. We're not gonna say anything else.
There's Julian.
That's Kevin. From all of us here at Forever Sorting, thank you guys for watching. Remember, you gotta sort those bricks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.